Welcome to the Archive Podcast, where we will explore the arcs of our individual journeys and the strength of the hive that holds us together. I'm Amy Rost, and I believe that life isn't meant to be navigated alone. Here, we dive into conversations that bring us closer to ourselves, to each other, and to the communities that lift us up. This is a space for real stories, honest reflections, and meaningful connection. Whether you're in a season of transition, seeking deeper relationships, or simply craving conversations that inspire growth, this hive is for you. Because when we come together, we grow stronger. Welcome to the Archive Podcast. Today's episode, we are going to dive into motherhood, movement, and the next chapter. It's a big one. And it is one that is happening right in front of my eyes. This time is really forcing me to redefine motherhood as my kids start to grow and as a few of them start to fly the nest. And, ooh, mamas, this one is tough. No one, I think, prepares you for this particular transition. So, this could be the shift in motherhood. It could be anything from, transitioning from toddlers to, school aged, or as they transition from school age to preteen and teen. And then as they shift and they're starting to go off to college and flying the nest, and then you realize, wow, what is happening? And you're starting to realize that your role as a mom is evolving all the time. So, in this episode, it is for every woman standing at the threshold of change and wondering, what is next for me? Take a deep breath with that one because it's not easy. And I remember growing up, I remember some moms talking in a kitchen somewhere. I can't quite remember where we were, but I can remember them talking in the kitchen and them, being like, oh, the days feel long, but the years are fast. And I always remember as a kid being like, are you kidding me? Summer vacation is taking forever. I don't get to see my friends. And I don't think it really landed on me until I became a mom. And I was like, this is very true. Um, as many of you may know, I'm the mom of four. And there were days that felt so long. Let me tell you, particularly with a set of twins, there were days where I was so tired, and I feel like in an instant you blink, and now mine are like looking at, applying to universities and making plans after high school. And they're my last two to leave. So I'm already down 50% of the kids. So I kind of know it's coming, but I'm not going to lie. These last two this has really weighed on my heart. And it kind of happens over time, and there's a little bit of a natural transition through this. As they start to grow, they want more independence. Um, they're testing the waters of, as they're starting to, really cut the cord and find their independence. And that, that feels okay. But then when you think of that next step of all the years, I've been a mom for over 25 years, and I think all of a sudden my household's going to be quiet in just 18 short months. And it does cause for a pause. And, at times where, life is so busy and you think, oh, I just love all that time. I'm also really aware that time is coming for me. I'm gonna have a lot of time, and I'm gonna have to figure out what I'm gonna do with it. I also think I had the realization, that we really only have these children for a small amount of time. And they're not really ours to keep. They're ours to, I come back to the bird, they're in the nest and we take care of them and we feed them and we nurture them and we, try and guide them to making good choices and really like finding themselves and finding their path. And then we kind of launch them. And they go off and they have a life a little more independent of you. And that really lands for me that they aren't ours for a long time. They're ours for a short time. And I really think it took me a long time to understand this. And it really took me a long time to embrace it and accept it, that let's get present real quick, because it's easy to get lost in the daily grind. It really is. But then it's like when you take the pause and step back and be like, you know, we only have 18 summers with them. And when those numbers start getting thrown around, those numbers go fast. Those days go fast. The years go even faster. And I think that could not be more true. And I think, as we start to see kids shift into whatever this next stage is, and I'm just going to speak from where we are at in that stage of, the last two looking at getting ready to leave. I think it's it's really forced me to also go inside and say, okay, then what's next? What's the next chapter going to look like? Um and how am I going to deal with that? And am I the only one who feels like this? And I don't think I'm the only one who feels like this. If you've got kids transitioning to whatever stage they're in, you feel that. You feel excited and you might feel a little bit lost at the same time and a little sad. Um but you're also really proud of them and all they've achieved, or you might feel all of the above. And I really then had to take that step and really ask myself, how am I going to redefine what fulfillment is going to look like beyond motherhood? And I'll always be a mom, and they only get one mom, and I know that. But how is I going to redefine those next years of motherhood without necessarily kids depending on me every step of the way? And It is that's a hard one. It really is a hard one, but I'm gonna share a little bit for me, what kinda brought me back, and I had a wake-up call when my oldest was diagnosed, in 2010. I had a bit of a wake-up call, and I had, like, a little bit of a wake-up call when he was diagnosed, and then the real wake-up call didn't come until about 5 years later when I was like, "Oh my gosh, I cannot stay on this path. I can't sustain it. I can't be working 40 plus hours a week, commuting, being all the things, that to all the kids and be a wife and have time for myself." And it really, really hit me hard. I could see the brick wall coming really close. And in that moment for me, it was I found Pilates. And, often I get asked, how did you get into Pilates? And I really got into Pilates by my husband saying, you really need to go try Pilates. And I'm like, well, I think I did a Pilates class in university and it was okay. And he's like, not that kind of Pilates. And I'm like, well, what other kind of Pilates is there? And he's like, you need to go to a studio. And so this was back when there were still newspapers. There was an ad in the paper for a local studio. And at that point, I was feeling really, really run down, worn out, exhausted. I'd had 4 kids. My body wasn't feeling great. I was feeling like my posture was really starting to curl in from being at a desk so much. And so I'm like, "All right, I'll go." I go to this Pilates studio and I walk in and I'm like, "What did I get myself into?" I didn't even know about all this equipment or what it looked like. And it was super intimidating. But once I kind of got over myself and met the teacher, and it was really interesting because she's like, okay, you're going to lie down on this machine called the reformer. And I'm like, okay. And then she put the spring on the reformer and she's like, okay, you're going to just press in and out. And in that moment, for me, it really was like an moment. I felt like, 1, could I work out lying down? That sounds like fun. 2, I felt like the spring could hold the tension in my day and all I had to do was move. It was like it could just hold everything else I was going through and I had the freedom to move. And 3, I'm like, actually feel really good. So for me, Pilates was like, I always say it saved me. It saved my body, my mind, and my spirit because it really let me, like I said, it held all the things that were not going well in my life. It it allowed me to be present just to move because you had to focus or else there was a lot going on, you could get hurt. And it really allowed me, it gave me permission to reconnect with myself. And I really don't want to ever dismiss the body mind connection because movement isn't just about the exercise. It is a way to ground yourself in a season perhaps that's changing. So I'm not saying it needs to be Pilates for you, but it really movement heals. That's a Joseph Pilates has a quote about that. Movement heals. And if you're feeling untethered, movement can always be an invitation for you to come back home to yourself. And whatever that movement feels like for you, it could be hiking, it could be biking, it could be swimming. But I promise as we go through transitions and change, what I do know is that I've always got a movement practice that can support me. And I think the really cool thing about Pilates is it can always meet me where I'm at. So, using movement as we go through this chapter, it can be really a tool for you to for some self-discovery. Practice like walking as a meditation, try a new physical practice or join a movement-based community and just see how that feels for you. And for me, it's become a huge coping mechanism or tool that really supports me and anchors me during these times of transitions. And I want to like reflect a little bit and then look ahead a little bit. You know, I think we need to shift from, what do I do now to what do I want? What do I want now? And that's a very different question. And for me, as I found Pilates, I really quickly started asking myself, I really like this. I wonder if I could teach this. And I hadn't been doing it very long when I started asking those questions. And you know what? The one thing I will say is I really did listen to that inner voice and that intuition. And I thought, I'm going to start doing some research. And I did. And that, as the kids and as, life shifted and transitioned as the kids got older, it for me was like, okay, what is this? What is this next season going to be? And for me, it was okay, I can't stay in the job I was in. I worked as an administrator in a spine clinic in disability management for many years. And it really was the job was really sucking my soul. It's a little dramatic, but it really was describes how I felt. It just was not I couldn't sustain the pace needed with all the needs of my family. I just couldn't balance it all. And it really um I knew then I needed to make a shift. And in that shift, and then when I started to ask myself, what do I want now, led me down a very different path in then what am I going to do? I mean, if I kept just in the what I was going to do, I probably would have stayed in the job, probably would have, just made it work, but I would have been miserable. But asking yourself, what do I want now, asks us to go to a deeper layer. And we're not starting over. We're really not. We're not going to back to ground zero. We've got, as the kids launch, 20 years of experiences and knowledge. We're really just evolving. So when we look at the evolution, our just role as moms change, right? Like thinking even just in the journey of motherhood, like newborns need moms all the time to survive, right? They can't survive without us. As they get to toddlers, they still need moms, but dads can do a lot more too. And they're a lot of work, but they that season is different than a newborn, right? They have words now. And then as they transition to school, they're more independent. They don't need you to dress them. They can dress themselves, they can feed themselves. You just have to make the food. And then as they evolve to teens, like we kind of go backwards a little, but they're just a little smarter. And then as they become, you know, adults, young adults, they still need us to guide them and take them to, you know, not necessarily, drive them to the place for a little while until they're driving, but they need, that guidance, to help them walk through a scenario or a situation and give them confidence. And that's, I think, really look at that now is maybe your parenting is going to shift, as they get older to more of a peer. And maybe now we need to come back and take care of ourselves. So, again, if you're a journaler or if you just want to contemplate this thought, if you're a journaler, you could write this down, but think about if you could design this next chapter with complete freedom, what would it look like? And how would you want to feel in this next season of life? I think really getting into the nitty gritty of that and let yourself dream here. Um, I am all about dreaming big. And sometimes I'm like a real big dreamer and like I dream with my heart and it takes my brain a little bit to catch up. But that's why for me it's good to journal because I can kind of, flush that out a little bit. But I encourage you to think about this or just contemplate this, write it down in your journal if that felt right for you. And I invite you to, share your thoughts on social media. Um, Use that hashtag my next chapter and then tag me at either arc.pilates or arc.hive.podcast. Um, and let's see what this next chapter is, as we dream. And I think as much as like I dread the time coming that they aren't going to be here, I'm also so excited for that time for them to get to this next chapter. It means we've done our jobs, Mom. We've got them there. We've one kept them alive, which, for some kids is no small feat. Two, we've given them the skills and the tools to take them through that next chapter. And that's what's supposed to happen, right? That is what's supposed to happen. And I look forward to that, where I don't have to give the right or wrong, where we can just, have more of a collaborative and connected relationship, different than one of um, parenting 101, I guess you could say. And I really think, motherhood evolves, and so do you. And this is a time to rediscover and redefine, and let's reclaim what's next. Because I know for many, many years, someone would ask, what do you need? And I'd be like, I don't know. I don't know what I need. I need to get to the grocery store, or I need all of these other things for everybody else. But really asking ourselves, what do we need for ourselves? Whew, that has a lot of our answers in them. And it is allowing ourselves to slow down and really, really think about this next season for us. And I think it also is that next season for your kids, showing them what that transition is going to be, because maybe one day they'll be parents and they're going to, walk that journey of motherhood. And I think the piece for me that is also so important is, again, coming back to that piece of community, finding those people who are walking that same phase as you and who have the same things in common. And as we journey through motherhood, and we often, a lot of our peers in our community come around us, based around our kids or their activities or their school. Now is a chance to actually really expand your community beyond that and find them beyond those just interests. Now, they could have kids, and I'm not saying that that isn't what will be a piece of that connection, but it's also having that community where you can have those conversations about these really interesting transitions. And I think for many years, my community and my network and my friends were really around that social circle, revolved around our kids and who they hung out with and their parents and who they spent a lot of time with. And that has changed a lot for me over the years. And I would say now today, as I've, you know, had the courage, I talk about this, is having the courage to find some confidence to step outside that circle, has really been an invitation to perhaps some of the most um, incredible connections in my life. And those connections aren't necessarily dictated anymore by geography. Two of my best friends don't even live in the same country. So, but those girls have shown up for me in a way of friendship and relationship that I didn't know before them coming into my life, that was possible. And part of that is just, again, being open to that bigger picture. And perhaps you can think of it as a butterfly. As the kids, expand their wings, so do the moms. We're going to spread our wings, and there's going to be um different opportunities, different connections, different people are going to come into our lives as we transition through this season. And I go back to to bringing it back even to Pilates. And sometimes I wonder, how did I get here? But one of my first lessons in a classical Pilates studio was, again, on the reformer. I felt all the support like I had in my initial one, but then we started to do transitions, and I thought, wow, this is kind of crazy. We are transitioning through life as, of course, just a symbol of what was happening. But on the reformer, it was messy, it was busy, it was um, crazy at the time, but I had all the tools to do it, and I had all the strength to do it. So I hope you take away that image, in that you have everything you need. You are ready for this next step. We can have all the feelings that come with it, and we can honor those feelings, and we can share those feelings, but we can also dream into that next chapter for what we really, really want. And that's the evolution of a mom. And it's a beautiful, beautiful thing that that we get to walk along. And I hope that you find your people to walk alongside you. And if you are looking for community and you're looking for support, please reach out, so that you are not You are not alone in this journey. Let's connect. So, thank you so much for being a part of the archive today. I hope this episode left you feeling inspired, connected, and reminded you that you are never alone on this journey. If this conversation resonated with you, I would love to hear your thoughts. Share your takeaways, tag me on social media, and let's keep the hive buzzing. And don't forget to hit subscribe, leave a review, and invite someone you care about to join us on the Archive podcast. Until next time, keep honoring your arc, leaning into the hive, and showing up for yourself and your community because together we are stronger. This is the Archive podcast. See you soon.